At one point, over 90% of the U.S. population was under mandatory lockdown orders. But some states within these great United States have begun to come to their senses and have began lifting orders over the weekend, allowing some Americans to return to work and to reopen America again. Great states like Georgia, Oklahoma, Alaska, South Carolina, and more are coming to their senses and opening up their states. You know it, and I know it too. There was never a time to shut down our country, but now that it has been shut down, it is certainly time to open up our country again. And so on today's show, we are joined by the former Chief Executive Officer of SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, Joel Manby, who shares with us his 5-point plan for reopening America again.
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes! Andrew, I am super excited to have you on the show today because we're going to be interviewing a great guest here. Now, I want you to imagine a hypothetical scenario, Andrew. Imagine this, okay?
Okay.
Are you prepared to imagine?
I'm mentally prepared.
Okay, so imagine this. Put it in your cranium. Think about it. Imagine you are in charge of SeaWorld,
Oh, wow.
and the primary attraction at your park is killer whales. There's other things, too. People want to see dolphins and stuff, but they want to see the killer whales.
The main thing.
And imagine
Killer
you
whales.
being told by elected officials, the media, that you can no longer breed killer whales, train killer whales, that you're being unethical for having killer whales. Imagine there's a documentary series being run on CNN once a day showcasing their heavily one-sided argument that you are, in fact, a terrible person for even ever spending time with killer whales. And imagine you're the head of SeaWorld. Would you be stressed?
Pretty stressed. It's a lot of attack.
Well, on today's show, we have an expert of crisis management, folks. We have the former president and chief executive officer of SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, Joel Manby. Welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic, Clay. It's so good to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Brother, when you were told at SeaWorld, as the chief executive officer of SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment, that you could no longer breed killer whales, train killer whales, that you were a bad person for even doing this. So when the documentary is just running on nauseam on CNN, how did you feel?
I felt as low as I could possibly get. Let's start with the fact that CNN purports itself to be a news agency, yet in prime time they were running a movie at least once a week for 52. It ran 700 times, I believe, on CNN. That would not pass a single one of their journalistic standards for accuracy and getting both sides of the story, which it did not. Now, the lowest point in my entire tenure at SeaWorld is when I found out that the Coastal Commission in California would not allow any further development for SeaWorld in California, which was one of our 3 main parks, unless we stopped breeding killer whales. And legislation was against us in that state. We were going to be basically shut down the killer whale department. So the big issue for us is, do we stop it just there, or do we do it across the country? We thought everything was going to move east. We would be dealing with this 5 years if we didn't deal with it. So we ended up stopping breeding, and we got a tremendous turnaround in customer and guest trustworthiness because of that. But it was a very, very stressful and difficult situation.
In your new book, do you discuss this in your new book?
I do. The book's called Love Works, and it basically outlines 7 principles of effective leadership that actually come from love the verb, not love the emotion. A lot of Americans misunderstand that. It's a Greek word, agape, which is how you treat people, not how you feel about them. And it's been incredibly successful in the organizations I've implemented in. Our engagement scores are up, turnovers down, profitability up. It's very, very well documented how well this culture really increases profitability, and I in the book explains it all. But I think at SeaWorld, the issue was, externally, we could apply those principles, but we had a lot of internal struggles as well with the board and some dysfunction there that made it very difficult. If you're not supported at the top with a particular kind of culture, it's very hard to get it implemented, but we certainly did the best we could.
Now, I'm not at all discounting your book, and nor am I trying to be booed by my guests, so I'm going to boo myself. Booing myself here. Just let it happen. Your book, Love Works, 7 Timeless Principles for Effective Leaders, is powerful. And if people read the book, and they're going to read the book, if they read the book, the idea is you're giving people principles. And when you have principles, you can then make game plans based upon principles. So I'm not discounting the book or the relevance of the book, but you and I know right now, telepathically, I'm going to read everyone's mind. Everyone is thinking about, what could it be? Could it be? Oh, I know, the coronavirus. So you have put together a 5-point plan, I believe, for how America should deal with this coronavirus craziness. And so you have been, the CEO of, weren't you the CEO of Saab at one point? Am I correct there, sir?
Yes. Saab North America for automobiles, also Hershey Enterprises, which has all of Dolly Parton's theme parks, water parks, Harlem Globetrotters, and then before that, actually a startup with Amazon.com, where we sold cars through Amazon back in the day, 1999, 2000, and got caught up in the .com implosion. But I still think that's the right idea. As all entrepreneurs know, you can be a little too far ahead of the curve and get arrows in your back, which I think we did in that case. But I do have a 5-point plan.
Let's do it. I want to hear about the plan. I do want to make sure you know this, sir. I at one point drove a Saab convertible with a little turbo of some kind.
900 or 9.3?
Which one is the least awesome? But they're both great cars, I'm sure. Which one's the least?
900 had some real problems.
Knowing me, I probably bought the cheaper one. So, but I'm sure I helped pay at least $1 of your salary.
That's the problem. That's the problem. You gotta buy the turbocharged. See, Saab made a big mistake. They went to non-turbocharged engines, and they got away from legacy. You gotta have energy and excitement in a car, and we brought back all turbocharges and called it a 9.3. But I'm sorry if you had trouble with that.
No,
car. The convertible had some real.
I had a good
issues.
experience with the car. I just know that knowing me, I would have bought the cheaper version. I will say this because you owe me a 5-point plan because I paid at least $1 of your salary. If you think about it, really, you owe our listeners a 5-point plan. So, what is your 5-point plan?
All right, so it actually is based on one of the key words of Love Works, which is truthfulness and being painstakingly and dreadfully honest with the American public. So the first step is assess the situation and get the facts out. If you look at the real facts of this coronavirus, 99.2% of the people who die from it have pre-existing conditions, whether it's diabetes, being overweight, or hugely overweight, or heart disease. And the death rate for people who are 18 to 50 is only 0.01%, which is 10 times less than the common flu. Another stat is the flu kills kids, which the coronavirus really does not. 0 in 100,000 statistically. So most of the deaths in most communities come from the senior citizens, old folks' homes, senior citizen homes. So we have to put perspective on this, Clay. More people, 1,000,003 people are killed in car wrecks. 500,000 die of heart disease. 150,000 die of suicide every year. And so the main point, the first step is to assess the situation. I wish that President Trump and the administration would focus more on putting this in context, but it's not politically correct to do so. The second point is acknowledge that nobody is going to agree on how to get out of this thing. The business people want to reopen. The healthcare industry wants no one to die of Corona-19, which is ridiculous because people are going to die from it. I'm not being
Wait,
callous about
real
it.
quick. The
fact.
devil does not need an advocate, but I have to argue, because if I argue, I feel like then the listener can go, oh, okay, I get it. There are people that do not want to open up the country again unless nobody can die from the coronavirus. And you just said
that's ridiculous. Okay. It is ridiculous at the basic fact of assumption. Look, 1,000,003 people die in car accidents every year. You know that. You have a higher percentage chance of dying getting in your car every day than the coronavirus if you do not have a pre-existing condition by a multitude of about 40. So we don't stop driving. People are going to die, but it's so politically incorrect to say we have to move forward because there's more downside than upside. I mean, I hate to quote Dr. Spock from Star Trek, but the good of the many outweigh the good of the few.
You know, I think what I'm going to do is every time you give a point of your plan, I'm going to hit my Fox News sound, and that way it sounds more alarming and more urgent and more scary. Because don't you think that's part of the deal too? A little bit of part of this whole excitement is playing scary music.
I want you to push back on me every time I make a point that you think your listeners won't agree with. So go ahead, give me the Fox News.
Yeah, I want to get the Fox News. This is what the Fox News is. The Fox News update. Here we go. This just in. Fox News. Another person has died from the coronavirus. This is the first African American of Russian descent. This just in. Tonight we join you. I mean, every time. Let me do another one. This is
if you have a how about Flash News? If you don't have a pre-existing condition and you're under 50, you have almost no chance of dying from the disease.
But that's positive. You know what they want to do? They cue up this music that's almost like haunting. Oh, let me cue it up, and it's like, tonight on Fox News. Do you have the virus? The virus may have mutated into 30 different strands. Can we kill the virus? Tonight on Fox News. And then you're going, hold me, right? I mean, don't you see that happening? People are, so you're saying.
That's exactly what's
scaring.
But that's where the president, and I think he's doing a good job leading us through this crisis, by the way.
Yeah.
We have to get the facts out and say, healthcare industry wants 0 deaths. That's not going to happen, and it's impractical. Government will overreact because if a politician gets accused of not reacting strongly enough, they won't get reelected, right? So all the pressure is to overreact. So we, as the president, needs to make a good decision weighing all of these issues together, which leads to the third point. If we've acknowledged that nobody will agree, the third point is anticipate what's going to happen. And this is the hardest one that I don't have good data on. If you get it, I think your listeners would love it.
Yeah.
Is what's going to happen with 20% unemployment? What's going to happen with mental illness, substance abuse, death from suicide, abuse in the home, divorce rate? You know, if you take unemployment to 20%, it just, our country is going to be in severe crisis, much worse than maybe 100,000 people dying from the coronavirus.
Let me tell you what's going to happen. Let me tell you what's going to happen with 20% unemployment. Have you traveled around the world a lot there, sir? Did you travel a lot?
Absolutely.
Did you ever go to Venezuela?
Once.
Did you go to Trinidad, Tobago?
No, I have not been there.
Did you go to Honduras? Did you go to Honduras? Honduras?
Yes, I've been to Honduras.
Yes. Have you been to Belize?
I have not.
What about Brazil? Brazil. That's my final country I'll ask you. Brazil.
Yes.
Okay.
Many times.
So we're mentioning countries that we have been to. You and I have been to most of these. Okay. So I got off the boat. I get off the boat. I'm going to Brazil, and I'm thinking, I'm going to Brazil. It's gonna be awesome, exotic. You know, the resort. You get on the resort, and you're like, whoa, this is swagalicious. It's beautiful. Love this place. Majestic beaches. Right. Remember the resort? But then you go outside of the resort, and there's great people, no jobs. Great people, no jobs. You have beggars everywhere, people making houses out of tin stuff, people, adults who are my age digging through dumpsters looking for food, people who have committed no previous crimes are now breaking into grocery stores for food. That's what about 20% unemployment looks like. I mean, that's about the employment rates of some of these places. I mean, that's what it looks like, right? I mean, am I getting it right? I mean, that's what it looks like.
Absolutely right. And that's what I'm afraid for in this country. And then what's going to happen, unfortunately, I believe, is if this message continues, it really puts the reelection in debate, because people will blame anybody who's unemployed is not going to vote for the incumbent, unfortunately.
Yep.
And that's where I'm cynical, but I believe that some of the opposing party doesn't want the economy to reopen, doesn't want it to do well, because it will get Trump reelected.
I'm going to read this audio to you, and I'd like for you to share with me. Let me play the audio. I've never heard this audio before, okay? And I'm not trying to paint you into a corner. This is audio just put out by Newsweek at 2:57, which means this audio came out less than 2 hours ago. And this is from Newsweek. So I'm going to play it. And I just want to have your reaction to this before you share with us the next point of your plan. So here we go. Let me play it.
Because as I've said many times, and I'll repeat it, the worst is yes ahead for us. It is how we respond to that challenge that's going to determine what the ultimate endpoint is going to be. We have a very, very critical point now. If you look at the curves that I've described multiple times, this window that we're in is going to be very important for us to stay ahead of this curve. Thank you.
Now that's Dr. Fauci, and that was. And I want to read to you, or I'd like to read to you real quick the text that goes with it. And the article's from Newsweek. It says Dr. Fauci backed the controversial Wuhan lab with millions of U.S. dollars for risky coronavirus research. Previous to me reading that to you, sir, were you aware of that?
No, I was not.
Do you think that most people were aware of that?
No, that actually shocks me. I'm not sure exactly what it means, but so he was backing them with money and research for what?
Now, this is Newsweek. And again, Newsweek, I think we all agree, it tends to be left of center, okay? So I'm not quoting Fox News here. I'm trying to quote things that maybe don't necessarily agree with my libertarian worldviews. But I read this. It says, Dr. Fauci is the advisor to President Trump and something of an American folk hero for his steady, calm leadership during the pandemic crisis. At least one poll shows that Americans trust Dr. Fauci more than Trump on the coronavirus pandemic, and few scientists are portrayed on TV by Brad Pitt. But last year, the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the organization led by Dr. Fauci, funded scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology and other institutions for work on gain-of-function research on bat coronaviruses. Now, if you go to thrivetimeshow.com, and you all the listeners can do this, and you click on the button that's in the phone, that says button, it says get the facts about the coronavirus. I've put a link, and I'm going to read to you what they did, because this is a link, and I'll give this is an abstract, or kind of a, if you're the CEO, don't you have to be accountable to shareholders and say what you did with the money? Is that kind of best practice there, sir?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So this is from the website. This is from again, I'm putting a link to it so you can read the abstract from ncbi.nim.nih. That's a National Institute for Health. National Institute for Health. This is from the Wuhan laboratory sharing what they did with the money. And I'm reading word for word. It says, here we examine the disease potential of a SARS-like virus, which is currently circulating in the Chinese horseshoe bat populations. Using reverse genetics, we generated a virus expressing the spike of the bat coronavirus in a mouse-adapted backbone. I'm not super smart, and you have to assume that I'm manipulating you or not being honest with you, and I encourage you to click on the links. But does that seem like maybe we should have known that? Do you think? Or what do you I just want to know in terms of transparency, what do you think? Should we have known this or not? Or what do you think?
It's tough to know from that information.
Yeah.
I think all of us perhaps underreacted a little bit in the beginning. I remember when Trump came on and he banned flights to Europe. I thought, wow, that's overreaction.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, I think our government, or at least Trump specifically, he cut off flights from China before anybody did.
He did.
And so I'm supportive there. I think it's suspect. It is suspect, no doubt about it. We have to look into it more.
Okay, I just was curious. I just would be, and I want to make sure that you can share with me, because I've never been the CEO of a big publicly traded company. But if you are the CEO of a big publicly traded company, let's say when you were in charge of SeaWorld, okay, and let's say that I'm a vendor and I want to, I want to wow you. I want you to start selling my soft pretzels. Do you have to disclose if I gave you $3 million?
That's the thing that I struggle with is how come we didn't know this sooner? I think Dr. Fauci had the responsibility to make sure we all knew that. Now, we don't know what that research was after. Maybe he was trying to help the situation, but it does sound like there was more information before we all got it publicly. So it's a little dicey.
Interesting.
There.
But point one you said is be transparent. So I'm just trying to get the facts out as we know about it.
All right. So the first point is assess the situation, get the facts
Got
out.
it.
The second is to acknowledge nobody's going to agree.
Got it.
And then the third is to anticipate what happens if we don't deal with this, and what's going to happen from unemployment, suicide, et cetera. The fourth thing, which I know you and I agree on from previous conversation, is a measured plan.
Yeah.
I think we need to reopen now people who are 18 to 60 because they have almost no chance of dying from this unless they have a pre-existing condition.
Amen.
So open up the restaurants, open up the spas and the haircut facilities. Anything under 200 people, I think, should be open as long as they're smart. Masks are mandatory, et cetera, et cetera. We should save the testing capacity for the elderly, and we should put all of our resources, as you have said in previous programs, because I listened to your podcast, you've said, let's put all the resources into saving those 70 and older, because that's where the vast majority are dying from this disease. I think you're dead on right there. And that way we get the economy going again for those who aren't at risk for those disease. And then the last point, which is point 5, is to reassess every 1 or 2 weeks because data keeps changing. So maybe we reopen now. Let's start with 200 people in gatherings, then 500, then 1,000. Now it's true. Sports events, theme parks, let's say cruise ships, they're going to be the last to recover. But let's ease into this. But to have this total shutdown is killing the economy and hurting people more than the coronavirus. And that's where I think if the president would follow this 5-point plan of getting the facts out, acknowledging we won't agree, anticipate what's going to happen, and a measured plan of reopening, and then reassess as we get new facts in, I think we'll work ourselves out of this. We have to. This is 20% unemployment is much worse than 100,000 people. And I know I sound crass in that, but when you think that the 80,000 people who die of the flu or 500,000 who die of heart disease, does everybody stop eating ice cream because 500,000 people die of heart disease? No. People keep going and they take that risk. So I'm 60, so I'm a little bit higher category. I don't have a pre-existing condition. I'm not afraid of getting the virus. You know, the recent tests from Stanford University, and Stanford is like the Harvard of the West. I mean, this is no shaggy institution. They are saying that the antibodies tested in people show that 50 to 80 times more people have it than we previously thought. And that's why the death rate is really more like 0.1, not 1 to 3%. 0.1%, Clay, is the normal flu. So do we go into complete shutdown because of the normal flu? No. Do we have hospital capacity issues right now? No, except for a little bit of time in New York City, and that's even questionable. So I'm not being crass. We have to put this in perspective.
Now, I have one final question I want to ask you because I know that there's somebody out there that doesn't agree. And the whole point of this is to make sure that we can share your plan with people. If we have a fork in the road. If we don't open, what happens? And if we do open, what happens? In your mind, we talked about it a little bit, but I want to just hear from your perspective. 60 more, because again,
go ahead.
I was going to say the models we're following were originally created by Neil Ferguson, and Neil Ferguson, who a lot of people don't know. A lot of people always are quoting the models, but they don't know who made the models. So I want to make sure we're very clear on this. Neil Ferguson is the director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics. He is recommending that we stay shut down for 18 months. So I'm going to play audio there for you, sir, so you can hear what he's recommending. He's the one who recommended the shutdown, okay? So I'm playing this for you. And I just want you to hear his recommendation, and you can tell me what happens if we follow his plan and what happens if we open up right away. I just want you to get your take on this. I'm going to cue up the audio, and I'm going to pull your mic down real quick. Here we go.
So I think kind of fundamental decisions have to be made by countries as to whether they're going to follow what WHO is recommending and what the Chinese did, namely attempt to suppress all transmission, or alternatively try to mitigate, in some sense control an epidemic, but short of completely stopping spread. And it's an important distinction because in the former case, effectively that's a strategy which, I mean, in theory, if it works, could largely prevent deaths from this infection, but would really have to be kept in place for 12 to 18 months until we have a vaccine available at scale. So that has enormous feasibility issues, and can any society really maintain those sort of controls for that long? Clearly has huge economic and social issues associated with it.
What do you say to the idea? What would happen if we carried out that game plan of being shut down for 12, 18 months?
It would kill a heck of a lot more people than 100,000. I think just in suicide alone, and I'm sorry, but that he's the same individual who projected 2 million deaths in this country, and currently we're sitting at about 60,000, which is less than 1/20th of his projections. So
right.
I think models have a high degree of variability based on their inputs, right? The more we know, the more the inputs are refined. Right now we know a lot more, and the antibody tests say that 50 to 80 times more people have it than we thought. They are asymptomatic. They don't even know they have it. There's no way we can control this disease. It's going to spread. The point is, it's not that deadly. It's 0.1% of the overall population based on current data. That may change, and I may stand corrected.
Yep.
However, right now, that's the same as the flu. So we have to understand that. We have to protect the elderly. And one thing I didn't say earlier crisply, the common flu kills children more than the coronavirus.
That it does.
And right now, therefore, we have an elderly person issue. And by all means, we should spend every resource to protect those people. And I don't like the fact that anybody 70 or older should stay confined. That's where our testing should go. They should not go out, and they should not be in public unless they test negative, and they should be tested weekly. And we really have to care for the senior citizen homes because they're just being decimated when the virus gets in there. But that's not a reason to shut down the economy. We're taking a ballistic approach where we need very strategic shots at solving the issue. And just like you said, I mean, you were the one who said, let's put all of our money into helping the elderly get through this. But for all of us who are younger and healthy and no pre-existing condition, we should go about our duties and get back to work. It'll be a disaster if we don't get back to work for 12 months. That I don't think any of us can predict. I wish there was more discussion about what's going to happen with 20% unemployment and everything that goes with it. And I just think, I hate to go back to suicide rate, but heck, 130,000 today die of suicide. Yeah. It's not a stretch to say that that's going to grow by 50%, which is 75,000.
I have a guy I know very well
who's
been to multiple. I have a guy who's been to multiple Thrive Time Show conferences who killed himself on April 12th. Shaking his hand, met the guy. I've had no, it's bad. I had a sales associate for one of the companies that I coach and consult. This person attempted to take their life. That's a thing. I've had these are real stories. I don't know like thousands and thousands of people, but these are people that I actually know. I mean, this is some serious stuff. And it's we're messing with fire here. And I guess my final little sneaky question I want to ask you this, because have you ever been around an educated idiot?
Oh, they're a dime a dozen.
Oh, now here's the thing about educated idiots. I've been around them before, and I remember I went to a class at Oral Roberts University. It's a Christian school. I went to a Christian school. I'm a Christian guy. I went there, and this person puts their hand up, and we'll call him Captain Snarkiness. And this is what Captain Snarkiness would do. Excuse me, sir. If the infinity means forever, who created it? So the professor's like, well, that's one thing we don't know about the character of God. He's omniscient. He's omnipotent. He's he's all knowing. He's all present. He's a big, kind of a big deal. We don't know, but you can ask him when you get there. Oh, okay, but sir, who created God? And he's going, I previously stated, he's omniscient. We believe he's omniscient. He's omnipotent. He's omnipresent. We believe he's everywhere. He knows everything, and we don't know. But sir, and this guy's got a 4.0. I know this guy to this day. Can't hold a job. Oh, he can't hold a job. He wants to hold a job, but he's an educated idiot. Joel, you've seen these people. Could it be possible that some of the people making these models, because data is different than models. Models are projections based upon what? My biases, my worldview, my hypothesis, right? I mean, who's actually looked at the model of Neil Ferguson? Is it possible that somebody could be an educated idiot here who's steering the ship? I'm not saying that you're saying that Neil Ferguson could be an educated idiot. I'm saying I think he's an educated idiot because anybody that would recommend a cure that would completely, I mean, if Joel, if you called me and I said, thank you for calling Clay's Extermination Service, and you said, yeah, at SeaWorld here, we've got a little bit of a problem. We've got some frogs in the tanks. Sure, sir, I'll take care of it. And you show up the next day, you shut down SeaWorld for a day to protect the animals, to protect the dolphins, to protect the killer whales, and you come back and all the fish are belly up, they're all dead. And you say, what'd you do? I said, I poured in bleach. I killed all the fish, and I killed the frogs. I mean, at a certain point, Neil Ferguson is recommending a plan that is certain suicide for our economy. Could it be that he's an educated idiot? Could it be?
It could be. I don't know, and I haven't read all that he said.
Oh.
Maybe they took the extreme edge of his range, but 2 million people, it assumes kind of 1 to 3% of the population
it's
is
a
going
lot.
to die of this disease, and it's just not going to happen.
Oh, jeez. Well, you know what? I tell you what, you have over-delivered. I gave you $1, as previously stated, when I bought a book. I'm sure that some of that trickled down to you. Reaganomics, it got to you. You have over-delivered so much value, and I don't want Andrew. I'm not the kind of guy who would guilt our listeners into buying a book. I'm not going to say, look, guys, just because we have a great executive on the show who gave us a 5-point plan for opening up America, I'm not going to say you're a bad person for not buying a book. I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that.
You would say that, though.
I would absolutely say that.
You would say it.
I would say you're an awful person if you don't buy his book.
I wouldn't say.
You wouldn't.
If you don't go
I'll
to
be the bad
Amazon
guy.
right now and push past your carpal tunnel and push past the pain and get one of those bowling kind of braces you can wear. The bowl,
brace.
if you're a good bowler, you have your own brace.
Brace.
I'm not saying you're a bad person if you can't push through the carpal tunnel to buy this new book here, Love Works: 7 Timeless Principles for Effective Leaders, but you would.
I would, and it's a one-click buy now feature. It's pretty simple. You're a
I'm
bad
a
person
classy
if you don't buy
guy.
it.
I'm a classy guy. And I'm not going to point out that if you're doing the whole Corona thing where you're stuck doing nothing but watching regrettable Netflix series and binge watching them, that you probably need to read a good book, and that a book could change your mind, and you're probably being less than smart if you're spending your time on Netflix and not reading a good book. I'm not going to say that, but you would.
I'd be the guy.
You
I'm
would.
saying that right now.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
So, Andrew, what are you saying?
I'm saying that you need to go buy the book.
We need to buy the book's called Love Works.
Love Works.
7 Timeless Principles for Effective Leaders.
Yeah.
And I'm not the kind of guy to say that, Andrew, a lot of people don't really write things down until you say it 17 times.
Yep.
So I'm not going to say that we should say the name of the book again, but you would.
I would, and
Can you tell us the name of the book again? Because I know that's what you want to do.
I'll say it.
Yeah, you don't have any class.
I want to. I know you won't, but
Our
I'll
listeners
do it.
are above
I'll do
this.
it. Love Works: 7 Timeless Principles for Effective Leaders.
Hey, I was looking at the cue card that you wrote for me.
Yep,
And
that
it
one.
says, Clay, say the title 7 times. Could you say it one more time? Just
One
so
more?
that you're,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel any dissonance.
Which
I'm
title?
not
The
going to
Love
read
Works?
your...
That one?
Yeah, the one that
one?
says, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Love Works: 7 Timeless Principles for Effective Leaders.
Hey, can you give I have one more pro tip. Can you give Joel your pro tip your pro tip for what we call the quarantine cold cut?
Oh yeah, the quarantine cold cut.
There's
The
cold cuts
cut.
for meat, but there's a cold
Yeah.
cut when you can't get your hair cut. Can you tell them what your strategy's been?
Well, the behind the cold cut, it's when everybody does it. And so the quarantine cut, what you do is you take a no guard on your razor.
On your razor.
And first you have to attempt it. You have to attempt a good haircut.
You attempt to do it good. And did your wife help you with this?
My wife helped me. She's incredible. She's great. She
Have you
helped me.
tested her for immunity?
No, and we came within 6 feet of each other, and I don't know if I
Does she
probably
have
have
antibodies?
I've got
Okay.
the antibody. She's got the antibody, and I have
Okay,
the
nice.
Corona cut now.
Yeah, beautiful.
It probably came from the Corona. Anyway, so you take the no guard,
Yeah.
and you just zzz,
You
all
buzz
over.
it?
You start at the front top with no guard, and you just go from front to back.
Front to back?
Front to back, and then you repeat about an inch over. Then you
Yes.
repeat about
until bald.
Until bald.
Now, Joel, what's your strategy right now? Are you going with the kind of the end times prepper look? What are you doing?
No, I'm going long here. I'm going back to the 70s because I'll tell you what, I tried what you just said. I saw my brother do that when he went in the Air Force and they shaved his head, and his hair never grew back. So he went bald after that. So I've been paranoid for 50 years here, ever since I've seen that. Sorry.
Oh, no.
I don't wish that upon you.
I'm going long. Beatles long.
I can say this, and I'm not, Joel, you're not saying this, but if any of the listeners out there have it, if it's possible for the listeners to get Dr. Fauci with me in the studio, I would like to put him in a headlock, give him a noogie, and give him the quarantine cut.
With your fist.
Yes.
Until you noogie
Just
his hair
rub the
off.
hair right off.
Just rub the hair right. Probably fall right out.
If we could find him. He's not super tall. If I can find him, I would like to get him here.
Gotta get some binoculars. Little man.
Joel, I appreciate you so much for being here. And if you could bring me Dr. Fauci, that would be great.
I will do my best, and I just promise your listeners, if they implement those processes in LoveWorks, their culture will improve and their business will improve, because I've seen it happen myself, and I've done it without it early in my career, and I guarantee it works. So I really appreciate being on your show. I think we have a huge issue here with the coronavirus, and I love the ability to talk through how we can handle it better as a country. We need to.
What I'm going to do right now, Joel, is I'm going to call you back from my cell phone right now because I want to introduce you to somebody who has the connections to the vice president's office. So I'm calling you back in just a moment so you can share that plan with people that have the power to make that change. But thank you so much for being on the show.
Clay, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Take care. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!
Boom. Boom. Boom.
Why does this still keep happening to me? I don't know whose prayer I'm breaking into, but I'm breaking into somebody's prayer saying, Lord, why do I keep going through the same things over and over again? And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before, because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you change everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There is nothing as powerful as a changed mind.
Boom! Nothing as powerful as a changed mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum. Hey, Clay, sit back, let me get 'em. Go get 'em, then. Hurdle every obstacle, trying to do the impossible. Turned my whole life around, haters thought it was comical. Had to make some moves, didn't need to seem logical. Quarterback to play, man, I had to call it audible. Drop back, stop that, rearrange and switch it up. Only got one life to live, it's best that you go live it up. Failure ain't an option, ain't no way that I can give it up. Hey, knowledge, gon' pick it up. Nothing like your posse, look poppy, you cannot top me. They watch me and try to copy like Rocky, you cannot stop me. Hungrier than ever, we grinding all through the weather. We shining because we better get with us, leave out our cheddar. Once I change my mind, dog, trust me, ain't no going back. Coming for that top spot, I'm feeling like they owe me that. Time for us to level up, I feel like we've been holding back. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, Dad. Boom! Nothing is powerful as a changed mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum. Hey, Clay, hey, back, let me get 'em. Yeah. Came a long way from where I used to be. Don't even see life the way I used to see it. Old habits die hard, but you gotta leave them. If they ain't riding like a Harley, then you don't need them. You're cheering and you're clapping, I don't need that. Fake friends treat them like Fat Joe, make them lean back. Excitement, no vision, makes you blind, I can see that. Anything I think up in my mind, I can achieve that. I can make a million if I want to. I'ma keep it real cause I want to. Other women try to holler, girl, I want you. And disrespecting wifey's what I won't do. Gon' do your dance. If you really wanna change, gotta have a plan. Even when they sit down, down, I'ma take a stand. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, man.
Beliefs become your thoughts, thoughts become your actions. So be intentional about where your passion is focused. There's no hocus pocus. We only live once, man, and you know this. You can't press the rewind, but you can make a beeline to the next level like you're headed for the tree line. I was born in Minnesota, moved to Oklahoma, incorporated both into my rhymes. Now it's time to show ya how a former stuttering student can turn out the raps with a lyrical miracle flow in the cash to match. Yeah, I'm important, a Minnesota refugee, but I'm consistent as can be as I rap on hip-hop beats, bringing rappers syntax. Even though that I'm white, I can play that funky music, but I ain't vanilla ice. Here we go, here we go, here we go, full steam. 3, 2, 1, dynamite on the scene.
Boom! Nothing is powerful as a change mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a fatty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum. Boom!
And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you changed everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There is nothing as powerful as a changed mind.
Hear the rest of T.D. Jakes' incredible, life-changing, and mind-altering sermon, Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind Today, by looking up T.D. Jakes on YouTube and typing in Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind.
You're getting ready to flow. I feel the glory.
That is a lyrical miracle rap